Hey guys, guess what? Another week of Heart of a Hero.
Hello, everybody.
And we're just going to be your heroes for today.
We are. Bam.
Zap. Just kidding. We're not real life heroes, but there are plenty of real life heroes. So, if you remember, we've been reading in Genesis. So go ahead and get your Bibles out. Turn them to the book of Genesis. That's the very first book in the Old Testament, remember? And you're going to start reading in chapter 41. So just look for chapter 41 in your Bible. Genesis chapter 41, okay? So, in 41 is a 4 and then a 1. And it's going to be a little bit of a bigger number. I'll like to help you guys out. So y'all go ahead and be looking for that. And while you're looking for that, I just want to share something with you. So, just recently, I have a lot of sisters. And so just recently, one of my sisters, we were just really disagreeing about a certain subject. I won't go into it. It was about politics. We don't agree on certain politics. So, but you know what? I love her. And I realized that it wasn't important, our thoughts on certain things. We're going to disagree on certain things, and that's not the important thing. The important part was she's my sister, and I love her.
Right.
And that's, even though we don't always agree on everything, we need to work things out. So what we did was we decided that even though we had different views about things, that our relationship was the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And so we just said, you know what? I love you even though you do this, and you love me even though I do this. And so we only stayed mad at each other just a little bit of time, not even a full day, because we just love each other so much we couldn't stand it. But so in the end we just said, I'm sorry if I said anything hurtful. Have you ever had anything like that happen to you, Miss Stephanie?
Yes, I have. You have to sometimes just say that. You don't unlove the person because you disagree. Mm-hmm. And now in the climate that we're living in right now, there are a lot of reasons to disagree, unfortunately, you know. But first and foremost, we have to put love first and love each other without all this stuff.
I mean, some of your friends agree about wearing masks, some of them don't.
Right, that's the thing.
It's just, but you know what? In the end of the conflict, it felt really good that I said I was sorry for things, and she said she was sorry for things, and you know what? I forgave her, and she forgave me. God calls us to forgive others or to reconcile. That's a pretty big word, or make up with them, and not to take revenge on them or respond to them in an angry way, because that's not helpful at all.
No.
In last week's story, Joseph was left in jail for a crime he didn't even commit, and that wasn't fair. That's what we call injustice.
Injustice.
So, injustice is when something isn't fair and it hurts an innocent person. But you know what? Heroes stand up for what's right, even if it costs them something.
Right.
So, we're going to talk about our hero today. In our story today, Joseph is going to help people who couldn't help themselves. That's what heroes do. These are people in our community who need help and prayer. So, we're going to read our Bible story about Joseph in Genesis, and then we're going to talk about that.
All right, so like Miss Tammy told you, it's in Genesis, starting with chapter 41, verse 14 through 41. That's a lot of 41s, right? Mm-hmm. 41, 14 through 41. So this is what it says. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. So remember, last week he was in jail, so now Pharaoh's calling for him, and he got all cleaned up before he went before the king.
Got fresh before the king,
yep,
right?
before the king. All right, so Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh. But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. All right? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile. That's a river there in Egypt. When out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dreams, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads sprouted, with eared and thin and scorched by the, sorry, my paper's in the way, by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. Wait a minute, I missed the line. And the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. Okay, so that's it. The cows are 7 years, and the heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up afterwards are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are also 7 years of famine. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. Famine means nothing, there's nothing there. They're gonna not have anything to eat, or
You're gonna be hungry.
Hungry. Famine means hungry.
Hangry. You're probably hangry.
Gonna be hangry, girl. So the reason the abundance in the land will not be remembered, because the famine that follows it will be so severe. So you're gonna be really hungry.
It's bad. People will die.
Yep. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food.
Like a savings account for food.
Yeah. So if you know something bad's coming, you assume something bad's coming, you should get prepared for it, right? Like,
That's right.
just like last week we had the hurricane, you know.
Right.
We had to get prepared. I was in my house preparing that my basement didn't flood by getting stuff off the ground and all of that. So you have to prepare when things, you know things are coming.
Kind of like when COVID hit, everybody went and bought toilet paper.
Right. Absolutely.
I
Okay.
still don't get that, but that's okay.
I know, it's all right though. But anyway, now, so what he said after that, this food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? When Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you.
Wow.
So Pharaoh said to Joseph,
That's a honking big deal.
that is, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt.
What? It's a good thing Joseph cleaned up, I'm just saying.
Could you imagine how that feels? All of a sudden, you were in jail.
I mean, right?
And then the next thing you know, you're so smart, and look, you must be on that hotline to God, right? Because you know exactly what the dreams meant. And then Pharaoh says, well, I'm just going to put you in charge because you seem to know what's up with God. That's so cool.
That is so, so cool.
Yes, it is.
But I think we have in chapter 40.
And then verse 57. All right, so we're going to read that next as soon as I find it. Here it goes. And all the countries came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the world.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, just wait for it. In chapter 45, Miss Stephanie's going to read verse 1 through 5.
Okay, so here we go. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. When they had done so, he said, I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now Do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you.
What just happened? Okay, so let's just recoup for a minute. So what had happened was Joseph went from slavery. Remember, actually, let's start at the beginning. Joseph went from a favored child to slavery, to get betrayed by his brothers. You know, his mental state must have been just awful. He was betrayed by his brothers. Then he went to prison. Then he went to the palace, and where he was second in command of all of Egypt. Now, this is not just little tiny LaGrange, Georgia.
Right.
This is, all of Egypt.
Huge.
So when he went to the Pharaoh and he interpreted the dreams, which is a gift that God had given Joseph. Joseph didn't just do that on his own. He even told Pharaoh,
Right.
I can't do this. God
Right.
has to do it. So God gave him this gift of using his gift to be able to explain the dreams, and when to warn the Pharaoh about a famine. If the Pharaoh hadn't have heard from Joseph, the devastation that could have happened to Egypt would have been monumental. The whole trajectory of history could have been changed had the Pharaoh not had the wine taster. Was it the cupbearer or the wine taster?
Cupbearer,
Had he not remembered Joseph interpreting his dreams in prison, had he not remembered that and told the Pharaoh, hey, I know a guy who can interpret this dream, then I don't know what would have happened to history. But Joseph was there just as God had planned, because God already laid out our life, And so he explained to the Pharaoh what was about to happen. And so then, after Joseph was put in all this control, well, guess what? His brothers and dad, they get hungry. So they have to come to guess who for food? Joseph. And Joseph recognizes them immediately. But they don't recognize Joseph. They don't know that the person in charge is Joseph. And when they do realize it's Joseph, what was their first reaction?
No, I'm just kidding.
They were scared. They were
They
scared.
didn't know what to do.
They had tried to kill that boy.
They did.
Left him in a well, then sold him off to slavery. You would think that Joseph would be so wanting revenge on them so bad that he could have had them put to death and nobody would have asked any questions. But he didn't. He didn't. He forgave his brothers, and he could have done anything, or just not even put them to death, but he could have just denied them the food that they needed to live, but he didn't. Having the heart of a hero means doing what's right even when someone doesn't treat you the way you should be treated.
Right.
Because it happens. Sometimes people don't treat you the way you should be treated. Miss Stephanie just had an episode at her other job just today where someone is not treating her the way she should be treated. But she was a hero, and she had the heart of a hero, and she's got to do what's right even when she wasn't treated the way she should have been treated.
And I had to tell someone I was sorry because I got a little upset about it. And I know the person that was trying to help me didn't do anything to me. But I didn't treat him kindly because I was upset. So I had to say, I'm sorry that I spoke to you that way, because all you were trying to do was help me. But I was upset, so I'm sorry that I didn't talk to you in a kind manner. So you have to sometimes do that.
Yeah, you have to backtrack and say, you know what, I messed up and I said this and I didn't really mean that.
Right.
Or, you know what, I did mean that at the time, but I'm sorry that I said it, because everything that comes in here doesn't need to go out
And
here.
see, God
It's gotta
fixes
pass
that.
in here first.
Yeah, and God fixes that for you. And I sat back and just took a breath, and God said, no, that wasn't right. You need to, and I felt bad.
Yep.
And you should, if you do something like that, you should feel bad.
God's view of right and wrong is not the same as ours. And in Romans 12:19-21 tells us, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. And I know that sounds so funny. By treating him kindly, you're going to heap burning coals upon his head? What does that even mean? But that means don't overcome evil by evil.
Right.
Overcome evil with good. This is what Joseph did. So Joseph knew God's heart, and his actions reflected in his faith. And Joseph's trust in God gave him the courage to endure the hardships and stand for justice. And you know what? We get to be that kind of hero too, because that same courage that God gave Joseph, he gives to us too.
He does.
That same courage and that same strength to go through hardships, he gives to us too. There have been several times where we've all gone through hardships. I'm sure you have too. And hardships means when your life isn't going just perfect. Say, you know, the grown-ups are fighting, or maybe even you have to move out of a home that you love, or you have to change schools, or maybe you go to school and someone's picking on you and you have to endure that hardship. But God is there with you, I promise, just like he was there with Joseph.
Absolutely. Through this COVID stuff, where you can't go to school, you have to stay home and go to school maybe. And I know that's probably really hard, you know? But just know God's there with you every single day.
Yep.
Say your prayers before you start your work every day.
Yep.
God's right there with you, and you can do this because you have a heart of a hero. You can also do this.
Exactly. So our big idea of the day is a hero helps others. Always. A hero helps others. And you don't have to even go out of your way to do it. It kind of just falls in your lap. God places those people that you can help, and only you can help, just like no one else could have helped the Pharaoh through this except for Joseph.
Absolutely.
God sent him there for a reason. Even though it was a terrible way to go, God still did that. Okay, let's do our memory verse. Our memory verse comes from Isaiah 40:31. And remember, it's, but those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength.
That's cool.
Got it? Because you can trust in the Lord, and he is going to renew your strength.
Absolutely.
Guys, we have such a good time with you every week, and we can't wait to see everybody back at church. Grown-ups, we will have in-person service this week, so you're welcome to join us. And no, I'm sorry to say we still don't have children's ministry up and running yet. Just that safety feature is not complete for us yet, so don't you worry. We have packets for our children. You can even bring your devices with headphones for the babies if you want. We don't mind that. It's perfectly fine. Masks are required. You will have a temperature check before you come in. So if you want to join us, please do. If not, that's fine too. You just keep joining us online. Thanks, guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye.